The council room was huge and circular. Representatives from dozens of alien species sat in their assigned seats. The room had been quiet for most of the morning, but now everyone was paying attention. Ambassador Vector from the Zenthari Empire stood at the center. His 4 eyes gleamed as he looked at the human delegation sitting across from him. Jake Morrison sat perfectly still in his chair. He wore his Earth Defense Forces uniform and his face showed no emotion. Next to him, Lieutenant Sophie Blake held her datapad tightly. Her knuckles were white from gripping it so hard. Other aliens in the room watched them with curiosity and pity. Vector spoke in his clicking language. The translator turned his words into flat, emotionless sentences. Your species has 48 hours to leave all disputed territories in the Outer Rim. If you do not leave, we will destroy your colonies completely. We have 3,000 warships ready. You cannot win against us. The humans were new to the galactic community. They had only been talking to aliens for about 60 years. Most species saw them as weak and small. The Zenthari Empire was one of the most powerful groups in known space. They had conquered many other species before. Jake finally spoke. His voice was calm and steady. Ambassador Vector, those territories belong to us. We followed all the rules. We submitted all the paperwork. We respected every boundary this council set. Vector made a sound that might have been laughter. Your paperwork means nothing to us. The Zenthari Empire has decided those worlds are ours. Your people living there insult our ancient claim. You have 48 hours. A holographic display appeared above the center table. It showed the Zenthari fleet. Enormous warships floated in space. Each one was as big as a small moon. Thousands of smaller ships surrounded them. The message was clear. Humanity had no chance of winning a fight. Sophie leaned close to Jake and whispered urgently, Sir, we only have about 200 military ships. We cannot move all those colonists in 48 hours. There are 12 million people living on those worlds. Jake nodded slowly. His jaw was tight. He stood up and buttoned his uniform jacket carefully. Every alien in the room turned to look at him. Ambassador Vector, Jake said. His voice now had an edge that made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. I need to contact Earth. We will give you an answer within 1 hour. Vector's mandibles clicked. It sounded like he was laughing at them. Make your calls, human. Beg your leaders if you want. It will not change anything. Jake and Sophie left the council chamber. Their footsteps echoed in the long hallway outside. Once they reached their private communication room, Sophie's calm expression finally broke. What are we going to do? She asked. Her voice was tight with panic. We cannot fight them. We cannot run away fast enough. Those people are going to die. Jake turned on the quantum communicator. His fingers moved quickly across the controls. We are not going to run, and those people are not going to die. But sir, how can we stop them? Sophie, the Zenthari do not know something important about humans. The whole galaxy is about to learn. He paused as the connection went through. The seal of Earth's Central Command appeared on the screen. Get me Admiral Helen Price. Use authorization code Morrison 7 Alpha Red. The seal disappeared. An older woman's face appeared on the screen. She had silver hair pulled back tight. Her eyes were sharp and cold. This was Admiral Helen Price. Captain Morrison, she said without any greeting. I have been watching the council meeting. The Zenthari have made a big mistake. Yes, ma'am. They threatened human civilians. Worse than that, Captain. They gave us 48 hours. That is more than enough time. She leaned forward. For the first time, Jake saw her smile. It was not a nice smile. Execute Protocol 17. Show them why they should never threaten humanity. Sophie's eyes went wide. Protocol 17? But that information is classified above your level, Lieutenant, Admiral Price interrupted. But you are about to learn what it means. Captain Morrison, you have full permission to speak freely with the Zenthari. Let them know exactly what they have done. The transmission ended. Jake stood quietly for a moment. Then he turned to Sophie. Lieutenant, in about 6 hours, every human ship in this area of space will receive a coded message. When they get it, they will stop whatever they are doing. They will all begin moving toward Zenthari space. All of them? But sir, that includes merchant ships, colony transports, mining vessels. All of them, Jake confirmed. Every human ship, military or civilian, armed or unarmed. They will keep coming until the Zenthari stop, or until there are no more humans left. Sophie stared at him. That is crazy. They will kill us all, will they? Jake pulled up a holographic star map. His fingers moved across the controls. Red dots began appearing all over the map. Thousands and thousands of them. The Zenthari think they know us because they have seen our military ships. They counted our warships and decided we are weak. But they never asked the important question. What question? Jake's smile was grim. They never asked what every human ship is carrying. They never asked why our merchant ships have military-grade engines. They never asked why every human learns combat training from age 12. They never asked why our mining ships carry enough explosives to break apart a planet. He expanded the chart. The red dots multiplied. There were thousands and thousands of them. And most importantly, they never asked what happens when you threaten human children. Because those colonies are full of families, schools, kids. Sophie's expression slowly changed as she understood. Oh no, they have no idea what is coming. No, Jake agreed. They do not know. And by the time they figure it out, it will be too late. Come on. We need to get back to the council chamber. Ambassador Vectar is about to learn a very important lesson about humanity. As they walked back through the corridors, Sophie thought about human history. Other species spent thousands of years creating professional armies. They had special soldiers who did all the fighting. But humans were different. Every human was taught to fight. Every ship could become a weapon. And when someone threatened their families, every single human became something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that did not know how to give up. Something that would burn down an empire rather than let their children be harmed. The Zenthari had conquered 17 different species. They had fought many wars and won them all. But they had never fought humans before. They were about to discover that conquering 17 species had not prepared them for the 18th. Jake and Sophie entered the council chamber again. The other delegates were talking quietly among themselves. They all looked sad, like they had already accepted that the humans would surrender. It was the logical thing to do. Fighting would only get everyone killed. But humans were not always logical, especially when their children were in danger. Ambassador Vectar sat in his chair looking very satisfied. He looked like a predator who had already won. The other council members talked quietly to each other. Their body language showed they had accepted what would happen. The humans would give up. The Zenthari would take the colonies. Life would continue as normal. When Jake and Sophie returned to the chamber, Vectar barely looked at them. Only 45 minutes had passed. The humans could not have decided to surrender already, could they? Jake walked to the human delegation area with careful, measured steps. He stood at attention with his hands behind his back. He spoke clearly so everyone could hear. Ambassador Vectar, I have talked with my superiors on Earth. We have made a decision about your ultimatum. And Vectar's mandibles clicked with impatience. We decline. The chamber exploded with shocked voices. Aliens turned to each other in disbelief. Coordinator Shelva, who looked like a giant praying mantis, leaned forward in her seat. Captain Morrison, surely you understand what this means. The Zenthari fleet will destroy your colonies. Millions will die. No, Coordinator, Jake replied calmly. They will not die, because Ambassador Vectar is going to withdraw his ultimatum and his fleet within 72 hours. The clicking sound from Vectar could only be described as contemptuous laughter. Your confidence is amazing, human. You have 200 ships. I have 3,000. Your biggest ship weighs 30 million tons. My smallest warship weighs 200 million tons. What possible reason do I have to withdraw? You are looking at the wrong numbers, Sophie interrupted. Her voice was steady now. All her earlier panic was gone. She activated a holographic projector, the air above the council table filled with data. These are the current positions of every registered human vessel in this area of space. The display showed thousands of indicators, far more than just the military ships everyone had counted. Merchant vessels. Vectar dismissed them with a wave of his clawed hand. Cargo haulers. Mining equipment. Are you planning to throw rocks at us? Tell him about the Henderson, Jake said quietly. Sophie nodded. 3 years ago, a human mining ship called the Henderson was working in the Deneb sector. Pirates attacked a nearby colony while the Henderson was in that star system. The Henderson had a crew of 30 people. It was a mobile refinery designed for mining asteroids. When they received the distress call, they changed course. She pulled up an image. It showed a blocky, ugly vessel that looked more like a flying factory than a spaceship. The pirates had 6 light frigates, military vessels with weapons and shields. The Henderson had mining lasers designed to cut through solid metal asteroids. It had explosive charges strong enough to break apart small moons, and it had a captain named Lisa Grant who had 3 grandchildren living in that colony. The display changed. It showed video footage of the battle. The ugly mining ship moved with surprising speed. Its industrial equipment became deadly weapons. Mining lasers cut through the pirate ships like they were made of paper. Explosive charges created expanding clouds of debris that tore the pirate vessels apart. The fight lasted 11 minutes, Sophie continued. The Henderson destroyed all 6 pirate ships. No colonists died. Captain Grant and her crew received medals. But more importantly, they showed something the galaxy seems to have missed about human engineering. Jake picked up the explanation. We do not build civilian ships and military ships separately, Ambassador. We build human ships. Every vessel that leaves Earth is designed to work as a warship if needed. Our merchant ships have military-grade engines because sometimes you need to run from pirates. Sometimes you need to chase them down. Our mining ships carry enough explosives to crack moons because sometimes you need that much power. This is not important, Vectar snapped. His tone had lost some of its confidence, though. Using improvised weapons against pirates is not the same as facing the Zenthari Imperial fleet. You are right, Jake agreed. Fighting the Zenthari fleet would be much easier. Explain that ridiculous statement. Pirates are cowards. They run away when things go badly. They want to survive. Jake's expression became hard. But humans? When you threaten our families, when you threaten our children, we do not run. We come for you. Every single one of us. Sophie expanded the holographic display again. The thousands of red indicators began to move. Cargo ships changed course. Mining vessels stopped their work and turned around. Transport ships that had been flying away from Zenthari space suddenly reversed direction. Colony ships, science vessels, even small private yachts all turning, all heading toward one destination. This means nothing, Vectar insisted, but his voice had changed. The mocking tone was gone. What can a cargo ship do against a dreadnought? 1 cargo ship? Not much, Jake admitted. But 10,000 cargo ships? That is different. You see, Ambassador, you announced your intentions on an open channel. Every human in this area heard you threaten to destroy our colonies. Every parent, every grandparent, every brother and sister and friend heard you. He pulled up another display. It showed the massive Zenthari warships. These are impressive ships. I am sure they have shields that can stop military weapons. But what happens when a merchant ship carrying 10,000 tons of cargo rams one of them at 60% light speed? What happens when mining charges designed to break apart asteroids explode against your hull? That is suicide, Vectar said flatly. For the first few ships, yes. But we have thousands of ships. And you threatened our children. Jake leaned forward. Do you know what a human parent will do to protect their child, Ambassador? They will do anything. They will fly a cargo ship full of fuel into your dreadnought's engine. They will explode mining charges in a suicide run against your flagship. They will keep coming, wave after wave, ship after ship, until either you are dead or we are. Coordinator Shelva's translator carried a note of horror. This is barbaric. This is human, Sophie corrected. We tried peace. We followed your rules. We filled out your forms. We respected your boundaries. And you responded by threatening to kill 12 million of our people. You declared war on our families. Jake straightened up. So here is our counteroffer, Ambassador Vectar. You have 72 hours to withdraw your fleet from the disputed territories. If you do not, every human ship in this area will jump to Zenthari space. Not to your frontier colonies, not to some distant outpost, to your homeworld. The chamber became absolutely silent. We will come in waves. Thousands of ships, most will die, of course. Your defenses will destroy hundreds, maybe thousands of us, but we only need a handful to get through. One cargo ship hitting your capital city at near light speed will kill billions. A few mining ships with full explosive loads will crack your planet's surface. Vectar rose to his full height. His 4 eyes were blazing. This is insanity. You would sacrifice thousands of your own people? Millions if we have to, Jake said softly. Because if we do not stop you here, you will do the same to the next human colony. And the one after that. Better to make our stand now. Better to show you that there is no victory in fighting humanity, only mutual destruction. The Council will never allow this. Vectar turned to the other delegates. This violates every rule of civilized warfare. But the other delegates were silent. They stared at the holographic display where thousands of human ships continued their steady movement towards Zenthari space. Elder Korvan, an ancient member of the Dramathi species, finally spoke. Ambassador Vectar, I fought in the war against the Vrex Collective. I saw species make desperate last stands. I have witnessed many forms of warfare. He gestured at the display, but I have never seen an entire species mobilize like this. Every ship, every crew, all moving as one toward what they know is likely death. They are bluffing, Vectar insisted, but his voice shook, are they? Elder Corvin turned his large eyes toward Jake. Captain Morrison, let me ask you directly. If Ambassador Vectar does not withdraw, will your people truly follow through? Elder, I have a daughter named Kate. She is 7 years old. She lives on the colony at Proxima Station. That is one of the worlds the Zenthari threatened. Jake's voice stayed level, but something in his eyes made even the battle-hardened Elder look away. If Ambassador Vectar's fleet moves on those colonies, I will personally fly the first ship into his homeworld. And there are millions more humans who will follow me. The silence stretched out. It was broken only by the soft hum of the holographic displays. Finally, Vectar spoke. His translator made his words sound strained. This is not over, human. The Zenthari Empire does not surrender to threats. Then you have 72 hours to decide if your pride is worth your homeworld, Jake replied. Humanity hopes you choose wisdom. The council session ended. As the delegates filed out, a butterfly-like alien from the Quillan Harmony approached Jake and Sophie. Captain Morrison, the Quillan said softly. I must ask, if the Zenthari withdraw, will you truly stand down? Or have you started something that cannot be stopped? Jake looked at the thousands of red indicators still moving through space. Ships full of angry, determined humans who had heard their children threatened. That, he said quietly, is what Ambassador Vectar needs to figure out. The merchant ship Wandering Star had been hauling cargo for 32 years. Captain Claire Rodriguez had seen a lot in that time. She had dealt with pirates. She had flown through dangerous asteroid fields. She had even crash-landed on a moon once and fixed her engines using spare parts, but she had never been to war. Now, 40 hours after the Zenthari ultimatum, her ship was part of a growing fleet. It looked nothing like a normal military force. Around the Wandering Star were cargo ships, mining vessels, colony transports, even a few luxury yachts. Rich people had abandoned their vacations to join the fleet. Captain Rodriguez, her first mate Chris Bennett, called from his station. I am reading another 200 ships coming out of jump drive. The fleet now has 8,000 vessels. Claire nodded and studied the tactical display. By military standards, it was complete chaos. There was no formation, no unified command structure, just thousands of human ships coming together at a single point in space, 30 light-years from the nearest Zenthari outpost. Get me a communication channel to as many ships as we can reach, she ordered. Channel open. Captain, this is Captain Claire Rodriguez of the Wandering Star to all human vessels in range. I know we are all scared. I know most of us are not soldiers. But I also know that every person on these ships heard what the Zenthari threatened to do to our people. She paused, thinking carefully about her next words. My son lives on Proxima Station. He has 2 kids. My grandchildren. They are 5 and 8 years old. When Ambassador Vectar said he would destroy our colonies, he was talking about killing them. She let that statement hang in the air for a moment before continuing. I have been hauling cargo for 3 decades. I have never fired a weapon at anyone. But I will be damned if I let some alien empire kill my grandchildren without a fight. We have 31 hours left on the clock. If the Zenthari do not stand down, we are jumping into their space. And we are not coming back until either they surrender or we are all dead. Rodriguez out. Her hand shook slightly as she cut the transmission. Chris was staring at her. Did you mean that, Captain? About not coming back? Every word. She pulled up a photo on her personal display. 2 small children smiled at the camera. When you have grandkids, Chris, you will understand. There is nothing you would not do for them. Similar conversations were happening across the fleet. On the mining ship Ironside, Captain Dan Foster spoke to his crew of 18 people. I will not lie to you, he said, looking at each person. Most of us will probably die if this turns into a fight. The Zenthari have ships that could crush us easily. But here is what they do not understand about humans. We are not fighters because we love war. We are fighters because we love what we are protecting. His second-in-command, Kelly Price, spoke up. She had been mining asteroids for 15 years. My sister lives on New Seattle Colony with her family. 4 kids. The Xanthari said they would destroy the colonies. That means her kids, my nieces and nephews. Exactly, Dan said. They did not threaten our military. They did not threaten our government. They threatened our families. They threatened our children, and that is when humans stop being reasonable. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Helen Price was coordinating the largest mobilization in human history. Her staff worked frantically at dozens of stations. They tracked the growing fleet and monitored Xanthari movements. Admiral, her aide commander Frank Martinez reported, "We are picking up communication from Xanthari diplomatic channels. They are starting to realize what is happening." Let me hear it. The translation came through. It was a conversation between 2 Xanthari commanders. The human ships continue to gather. Current count is over 8,000 vessels. What type of ships? Mostly non-military. Cargo ships, mining vessels, transports. Then they are no real threat. Our fleet will destroy them easily. Command, I must disagree. Each of these vessels is large enough to cause major damage if they reach our positions. And the humans show no signs of stopping. There was a long pause. Are they truly willing to sacrifice so many for a handful of colonies? Intelligence says yes. Human cultural analysis shows strong protective instincts about their offspring. The colonies contain large civilian populations, including many children. This is irrational. What military force sacrifices thousands for millions? The logical response is evacuation. Humans, it seems, are not logical when their young are threatened. Admiral Price smiled grimly as the transmission ended. They are starting to understand. Commander Martinez, what is our actual military fleet status? All military vessels are in position, ma'am. But as you ordered, they are holding back, mixed in with the civilian fleet. The Xanthari still think they are facing mostly unarmed ships. Good. Let them keep thinking that. When those civilian ships jump in and start their attack runs, our military vessels will be right there with them. The Xanthari will be so focused on stopping the suicide ships, they will not notice our frigates and destroyers attacking their weak points. It is a brutal strategy, ma'am. It is war, Commander. The Xanthari started it by threatening civilians. We are going to finish it. She turned to another aide. Get me a secure channel to Captain Morrison at the Galactic Council. It is time he delivered our final message. Back at the council station, Jake received the transmission. He immediately requested an emergency session. Within the hour, all council members had gathered. Ambassador Vector was there too. He looked much less confident than he had 48 hours ago. Captain Morrison, Coordinator Shelva, began. This council has been monitoring the human fleet movements. This is madness. You must stand down. With respect, Coordinator, we did not start this. Ambassador Vector issued an ultimatum, threatening to destroy our colonies. We are simply responding by mobilizing every ship you have for a suicide mission. Elder Corvin's voice carried a note of respect mixed with horror. Captain, I have seen many wars, but I have never witnessed an entire species willing to throw itself into the fire like this. Then you have never seen someone threaten human children, Jake replied. Elder, how many species in this council have mandatory military service? Most of us maintain professional military forces. Humans do not. Every human receives combat training as part of their education. Not because we are warlike, but because we decided long ago that every person should be able to defend their home and family if needed. We hoped we would never need that training. He gestured at a display showing the gathering fleet. The Xanthari have made it necessary. Ambassador Vector finally spoke. His translator made his agitation clear. This is blackmail. You threaten our homeworld to protect your colonies. No, Ambassador. You threatened our colonies. We are promising consequences. There is a difference. You cannot win. Even with all these ships, our defenses will destroy you. Probably, Jake agreed. But let me explain what is going to happen. First wave. 5,000 human ships jump into your home system. Your defense fleet and orbital platforms will destroy most of them. Let us say you get 99%. That is still 50 ships that get through. Some will be mining vessels carrying enough explosives to crack continents. Some will be cargo ships loaded with fuel, moving at 60% light speed. A few hits and your homeworld becomes uninhabitable. He pulled up a simulation. But let us say your defenses are even better than we think. Let us say you stop every single ship in the first wave. There is a second wave of 3,000 ships right behind them, and your defense platforms will have used up their ammunition. Your ships will need time to recharge weapons and shields. The simulation continued. It showed wave after wave crashing against the Xanthari defenses. Each wave got a little further. Finally, ships began breaking through to the planet below. And here is the important part, Ambassador. We are not stopping at 2 waves. We have 23,000 human ships within range of your home system. If necessary, we will send every single one. Because each of those ships has a crew that knows their families are in danger, people who have decided that dying to protect their children is better than living to see them murdered. Vektar was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice had lost all its earlier confidence. You would truly do this? Sacrifice tens of thousands of your own people? We would sacrifice hundreds of thousands if that is what it takes, Jake said softly. Because if we do not stop you here, you will move on to the next colony. And the next, you will keep killing until someone stops you. Better to stop you now, no matter the cost. This is not warfare. This is genocide. No, Ambassador. Genocide is what you threatened to do to our colonies. What we are offering is justice. Stand down your fleet, withdraw your ultimatum, and we will stand down ours. But if you attack our colonies, we will burn your homeworld to ashes. Every human ship, every human life, if necessary, will be thrown at you until you are destroyed. The council chamber erupted with overlapping voices. It took several minutes to restore order. The Xanthari Imperial War Council met in a chamber that had seen 300 years of victory celebrations. Now, for the first time in living memory, the mood was tense and uncertain. Supreme Commander Zektol stood before a holographic display showing the human fleet. 8,000 ships had become 12,000, and more kept coming. This is unprecedented, Fleet Admiral Nexivar stated. His mandibles clicked nervously. They continue to gather despite all logic. Intelligence confirms these vessels are mostly civilian. Cargo ships, mining equipment, even passenger transports. Then they are fools, War Master Drakton snapped. Our dreadnoughts will tear through them like paper. Will they? Supreme Commander Zektol's voice was cold. He pulled up a tactical analysis. Each of these civilian ships weighs between 10,000 and 50,000 tons. They have engines capable of 40 to 70% light speed. Do you understand what happens when 50,000 tons hits a planetary shield at 60% light speed? The chamber fell silent. It releases energy equal to a nuclear weapon, Zektol continued, and they have 12,000 of these ships. Even if we destroy 99%, even if we stop all but 1% of them, that is still 120 ships getting through. 120 nuclear-level impacts on our defenses, our cities, our homeworld. We must call their bluff, Drakton insisted. No species would sacrifice so many. Have you read the cultural analyses? Nexivar pulled up a document. Human history is full of examples. When threatened, humans have chosen death over surrender many times. They have used nuclear weapons on their own planet. They have burned their own cities rather than let enemies take them. They have a saying about this kind of thinking. Zektol expanded the display to show individual human ships. Look at these crew records. The mining ship Ironside has 18 crew members. Captain Dan Foster, age 52. He has 2 brothers living on Proxima Station Colony. The cargo ship Wandering Star has Captain Claire Rodriguez, age 58. Her son and 2 grandchildren live on New Seattle Colony. He turned to face the council. Every ship out there has a similar story. They are not soldiers following orders. They are parents, grandparents, siblings. And we threaten their families. So we withdraw? Drakton's voice was full of contempt. The mighty Xanthari Empire yields to a mob of civilian ships? We made a strategic error, Zektol said flatly. When we issued that ultimatum, we assumed humans would respond as a military force. Calculated, strategic, rational. Instead, they responded as a species. Every human who heard that threat decided to act. It is not a military mobilization. It is a species-wide response. He pulled up historical data. We have conquered 17 species. Each time we threatened their military, destroyed their fleets, and they surrendered. But we never threatened their civilians directly. We gave them a choice: submit or watch your soldiers die. That calculation works because soldiers understand acceptable losses. The humans do not see it that way, Nexivar said quietly. We did not threaten their military. We threatened to destroy their colonies. To them, we declared war on their children. And humans do not calculate acceptable losses when their children are involved. There must be a military solution, Drakton argued. We have 3,000 warships. They have barely 200 military vessels mixed in with this civilian mob. And our intelligence was wrong about something else. Zectol brought up new data. We assumed human civilian ships were unarmed. They are not. This mining ship has industrial lasers that can cut through battleship armor. This cargo hauler is carrying fuel that, if exploded, would destroy everything within 1,000 kilometers. The colony ship has enough construction explosives on board to crack a moon. He zoomed in on the tactical display. Every civilian ship is a potential weapon. And more importantly, every crew member is trained in basic combat. Their species requires it. We thought we were facing 200 warships. We are actually facing 12,000 ships, each one capable of inflicting major damage if they reach our space. A new voice joined the discussion. Ambassador Vector entered the chamber. He looked much less proud than when he had issued the ultimatum 3 days before. Supreme Commander, I have just received another transmission from the Galactic Council. What do they say? They say this is our fault. That we violated the principles of civilized warfare by threatening civilian populations. Several council members have stated that if we proceed with our attack on the human colonies, they will not interfere with the human response. Vector's translator made his discomfort clear. We will be alone if this turns into a war of extermination. The council abandoned us? Drakton looked shocked. They did not abandon us. They are following the law. We threatened to commit genocide. The humans promised to respond in kind. The council cannot support either side in a war of mutual extermination. Zectol studied the display in silence for a long moment. Then he spoke with the weight of command. What is the status of our fleet? In position, Supreme Commander. We can launch our attack on the human colonies within the hour. And the human response? Their fleet will jump to our home system about 12 hours after we attack. Projected casualties? On our side, if we attack the colonies, about 15 million dead, another 30 million injured. On their side, 12 million dead in the colonies. And if their fleet attacks our homeworld? Nexvar hesitated. Projections are severe, Supreme Commander. Even with optimal defensive performance, we estimate 60 to 80 impacts on planetary shields and surface targets. Casualty estimates range from 500 million to 3 billion dead. The homeworld would be uninhabitable for decades. The numbers hung in the air like a death sentence. 3 billion, Zectol repeated, against their 12 million. They do not care about the ratio, Vector said quietly. I spoke with Captain Morrison. He has a daughter on one of those colonies. When I asked if he would truly sacrifice his life in a futile attack, do you know what he said? What? He said his life is not futile if it saves his daughter. Even if he only kills one of us before he dies, that is one less threat to her. And there are millions more humans who feel exactly the same way. Vector's mandibles clicked in what might have been respect or fear. He meant it, Supreme Commander. They all mean it. War Master Drakton stood abruptly. This is cowardice. The Zenthari Empire does not yield to threats. No, Zectol agreed. We yield to reality. And the reality is that we made a terrible error in judgment. We thought we were threatening a weak military force. We were actually threatening an entire species' children. He looked at each member of the War Council. I have reviewed human military history. They have a word for what we did. A crime so severe that no response is too extreme. So we surrender. Drakton's voice was bitter. We survive, Zectol corrected. We withdraw our fleet. We cancel the ultimatum. We acknowledge that the disputed territories belong to humanity under the expansion accords, and we never ever threaten human civilians again. The Emperor will never agree to this. The Emperor will agree, or the Emperor will watch our homeworld burn. Zectol's voice was cold as ice. I am Supreme Commander of all Zenthari military forces. I have the authority to make tactical withdrawals to preserve the Empire, and that is exactly what I am going to do. He turned to his communications officer. Get me a direct channel to Captain Morrison at the Galactic Council, and prepare a message for the human fleet. In the council chamber, Jake received the transmission with Sophie at his side. Together they listened as Supreme Commander Zectol delivered his message. Captain Morrison, this is Supreme Commander Zectol of the Zenthari Empire. After careful consideration, we have decided to withdraw our ultimatum and our fleet from the disputed territories. We acknowledge human control over these systems under the expansion accords. We apologize for our threats against your civilian populations. We request that you stand down your fleet. Jake and Sophie looked at each other. Sophie's hands were shaking slightly as she prepared a response, but her voice was steady when she transmitted it to the human fleet. All human vessels, this is Lieutenant Sophie Blake, broadcasting on behalf of Captain Morrison and Earth Central Command. The Xanthari have withdrawn their ultimatum. The threat to our colonies has ended. All ships are ordered to stand down and return to normal operations. Repeat, all ships stand down. Our families are safe. On the bridge of the Wandering Star, Captain Claire Rodriguez read the message. Tears streamed down her face. Helm, set course back to our original route. Communications, get me a channel to my son on Proxima. Similar scenes played out across 12,000 ships. Miners returned to asteroids. Cargo haulers resumed their routes. Colony ships continued their journeys. The greatest civilian mobilization in galactic history ended as quickly as it had begun. But everyone involved knew something had changed. The galaxy had learned something new about humanity. 3 months passed since the event that everyone now called the Stand. Captain Jake Morrison sat in a quiet observation deck on the council station, watching stars drift past the window. He was alone, but not for long. Elder Corvin approached slowly. The ancient Dramathi moved with deliberate care. He settled into a seat beside Jake. His large eyes reflected the starlight. You look troubled, Captain Morrison, despite your victory. Was it a victory? Jake asked quietly. We came within hours of mutual destruction. Millions would have died on both sides. But they did not, because the Xanthari chose wisdom. Corvin was quiet for a moment before continuing. I have lived 400 years, Captain. I have witnessed 17 species join this council, but I have never seen anything quite like what humanity did. We got lucky. If the Xanthari had been more stubborn or more proud, it was not luck. It was something the galaxy has not seen in a very long time. The Elder leaned forward. Most species, when they develop space travel, first meet other species as rivals or enemies. They learn to separate things. Soldiers fight wars. Civilians live their lives. The military handles threats. But humans reached the stars alone, did you not? We were the only intelligent species in our solar system, yes. So you never learned to separate civilian and military populations. To you, every human is a potential defender. Every ship is a potential weapon. When threatened, your entire species mobilizes. Corvin's voice held wonder. It is terrifyingly effective. It is just terrifying, Jake said. Do you know what kept me awake these past months? Thinking about what almost happened. We were ready to throw away tens of thousands of lives in suicide attacks. And everyone was willing. Mining crews, merchant captains, even civilian passengers. All ready to die. Because you were defending your children. That does not make it right. It makes it necessary, but not right. Sophie Blake entered the observation deck carrying a data pad. Captain, you should see this. It is a report from intelligence about how other species are responding to what happened. Jake took the data pad and read. His expression grew increasingly serious. What does it say? Corvin asked. Several species have filed formal protests with the Council. They are calling our mobilization excessive force and disproportionate response. They want rules limiting how many ships we can move during a crisis. Jake set the data pad down. They are afraid of us now. Can you blame them? Sophie said softly. We showed them that if you threaten humanity, we will throw our entire species at you. That is terrifying to species who think of war as a profession, not a survival response. Corvin made a gesture that was his species' version of a nod. They fear what you revealed about yourselves. But there is something else happening too. He pulled up a holographic display showing diplomatic communications. 3 species have approached Earth requesting mutual defense treaties. They see humanity as the ultimate deterrent. We are not weapons, Jake said sharply. No, but you are committed defenders. Captain, do you know why the Xanthari were able to conquer 17 species? Superior military force? Calculation. Each species they conquered made a rational calculation. Fighting would cost more than surrendering. The Xanthari offered reasonable terms to those who yielded quickly. So species chose to live under Xanthari rule rather than die fighting hopeless battles. We were supposed to make the same calculation. Yes, but you did not, because the Xanthari threatened something that to humans makes any cost acceptable. They threatened your children. Corvin's voice softened. That is what these species who want treaties understand. If they align with humanity, any potential aggressor knows they would face not just military resistance, but the full force of human protective instinct. Jake stood and walked to the viewport, staring out at the stars. We did not want to be the galaxy's weapon. We just wanted to be left alone to settle our colonies, trade with our neighbors, live in peace. And you still can, Corvan assured him. But the galaxy now understands something crucial about your species. You cannot be threatened with acceptable losses, because when your families are in danger, no loss is acceptable. That is going to make diplomacy complicated, Sophie observed. Actually, it might make it simpler, Corvan said. Clear lines are sometimes easier to work with than unclear ones. Every species now knows, do not threaten human civilians. Do not attack human colonies. Do not harm human children. These are absolute boundaries, and if someone crosses them anyway, then they will learn what the Zinthari learned. That humanity does not bluff. A sound indicated an incoming transmission. Sophie checked it and smiled. Captain, it is from Admiral Price. She wants to talk to you. The Admiral's face appeared on a small display. Helen Price looked tired but satisfied. Captain Morrison, good work out there. You helped us avoid a war. Thank you, ma'am. Though I think we also scared half the galaxy. Good. Let them be scared. Let them understand that humanity is not to be threatened. Price's expression softened slightly. I have received your request for reassignment. You want to leave the council and return to colony patrol duty? Yes, ma'am. This diplomatic life is not for me. I would rather be out there protecting our people directly. Request denied. Jake blinked in surprise. Ma'am? Captain, you just taught the entire galaxy a lesson about humanity. You think I'm going to let you disappear into routine patrol duty? You are now the face of human determination. Every species in the council knows your name. You are staying right where you are. With respect, Admiral, I am not qualified to be a symbol. You already are one, Captain. The Zinthari withdrew because they believed you would do exactly what you said. They saw in your eyes that you were not bluffing. That is the kind of representation humanity needs right now. The transmission ended. Jake looked at Sophie and Corvan. I do not want to be a symbol of human aggression. You are not, Sophie said. You are a symbol of human commitment. There is a difference, Corvan stood slowly. Captain Morrison, let me tell you something I have learned in 4 centuries of life. Every species that joins this galactic community brings something unique. The Vraxi brought advanced biology. The Quellan brought artistic achievement. The Dramathi brought philosophical wisdom. He gestured at Jake. Humanity has brought something we did not know we were missing. Absolute commitment to protection. You have shown us what it means to be willing to sacrifice everything for those you love. That is not unique to humans, Jake protested. Surely other species feel the same way about their families. They do. But they calculate. They weigh costs and benefits. They accept necessary losses. Corvan's large eyes held Jake's gaze. Humans do not accept necessary losses when it comes to their children. You will burn down the galaxy to save them. That is not aggression, Captain. That is love taken to its absolute limit. Over the next weeks, Jake watched as the galaxy adjusted to this new understanding of humanity. Trade agreements were renegotiated with new respect for human positions. Border disputes were settled more favorably. No one wanted to be on the wrong side of a species that would mobilize its entire civilian population if threatened. But there were also unexpected benefits. When the Vraxi colony in the Beta sector was threatened by raiders, it was a human patrol fleet that arrived first. When the Quellan lost contact with an exploration ship, human merchant vessels in the area immediately changed course to search. Slowly, humanity's fierce protectiveness extended beyond their own species. One evening, Jake received a personal message from an unexpected source. Supreme Commander Zek Toll of the Zinthari Empire. Captain Morrison, I am recording this message because I believe it is important. What happened between our species should never happen again. The Zinthari Empire made a grave error in judgment, and we have learned from it. But I want you to know something else. In reviewing the incident, I discovered that my own grandson lives on a colony near the disputed territories. When I realized that human parents were willing to die to protect their children, I understood. Because I would have done the same for my grandson. Zek Toll paused. His alien features were hard to read. Your species taught us something valuable, Captain. Not through military superiority, but through unwavering commitment. The Zinthari respect strength, but we have learned to respect human dedication even more. We will not forget this lesson. The message ended. Jake sat in silence for a long time. Does this change anything? Sophie asked. She had been reviewing reports in the corner of his office. Everything, Jake said, and nothing. We are still the same species we were before. We still want peace, trade, cooperation, but now everyone knows that if they threaten our families, we will stop being reasonable and start being relentless. Is that a good thing? I do not know, but it is who we are. Months turned into years after the stand. Jake Morrison remained at the Galactic Council, representing humanity's interests. Sometimes he had to remind other species about the lessons learned during those tense days. The Xanthari honored their withdrawal completely. They became, surprisingly, one of humanity's strongest trading partners. Ambassador Vector even sent a gift to Jake's daughter Kate on her 8th birthday. It was a beautiful crystal from the Xanthari homeworld. The note that came with it read, "So that she may grow up in a galaxy that learned to respect boundaries." The 12,000 ships that had gathered for humanity's desperate stand returned to their normal lives. Mining crews broke apart asteroids, merchant captains hauled cargo across the stars, colony ships delivered settlers to new worlds. But they all knew, and the galaxy knew, that if the call came again they would drop everything and mobilize once more. Because that is what humans did. They protected their own no matter the cost. On a quiet evening 2 years after the stand, Jake stood in the observation deck with his daughter Kate. She had come to visit the council station during a school break. Together they watched the stars slowly drift past. "Dad," Kate asked, "is it true that thousands of people were ready to die to protect me and the other kids on the colonies?" Jake knelt down to her level. "Yes, sweetheart. That is true, and why? Because you are worth protecting. Because every child is worth protecting. Because humans believe that some things are more important than our own lives." Kate was quiet for a moment, thinking about this. Then she asked, "Will we have to do it again?" "I hope not. I hope the galaxy learned its lesson. But if we do," Jake hugged his daughter close, "then yes, we will do it again. That is what humans do. We protect our families," Kate nodded. She accepted this with the simple understanding of childhood. "Okay, Dad, that makes sense." As the stars continued their endless dance and the galaxy moved forward, Jake Morrison thought about what humanity had become. They were not the strongest species in known space. They were not the smartest or the most advanced, but they had brought something unique to the galactic community. An absolute line that could not be crossed. A commitment that could not be broken, and a love that would sacrifice everything to protect the next generation. The galaxy had learned its lesson well during the stand. Never threaten humans. And especially, never threaten their children, because humanity would burn down the stars themselves to keep their families safe. Sophie Blake joined Jake and Kate at the observation window. She had been promoted to commander now. She smiled at the young girl. "Kate, did your dad tell you about the new academy program?" "What program?" "Several alien species want to send their military officers to train with humans. They want to learn our way of thinking, our commitment to protection." Kate looked confused. "But we are not soldiers, are we? We are just regular people." "That is exactly the point," Sophie said. "You are regular people who become extraordinary when your families are threatened. That is what makes humanity special." Elder Corvan had told Jake something important a few weeks earlier. The galaxy was changing because of humanity's example. Other species were starting to think differently about how they protected their civilians. Professional armies were still important, but now many species were teaching basic defense skills to all their citizens, not just soldiers. The Xanthari had been the first to make this change. After the stand, they revised their entire military doctrine. They created programs teaching all Xanthari citizens how to defend their homes and families. Other species watched and began to follow. "We changed them," Jake had said to Corvan. "You showed them a better way," the elder had replied. "A way where every citizen is a potential defender, where families do not have to rely only on professional soldiers to protect them. You gave the galaxy something valuable, the knowledge that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when defending those they love." Now, standing in the observation deck with his daughter and his second-in-command, Jake felt a sense of peace. The galaxy was safer because of what had happened, not because humanity had shown how destructive they could be, but because they had shown how committed they were to protecting the innocent. "Commander Blake," Kate said suddenly, "my teacher said that some people are calling what happened the human warning. Is that true?" Sophie looked at Jake, unsure how to answer. Jake knelt down to Kate's level again. "Some people do call it that, yes. But I think of it differently. I think of it as the human promise. What promise? The promise that we will always protect our families. The promise that no one, no matter how strong or powerful, can threaten our children without facing consequences. And the promise that we will never start a fight, but we will always finish one if we have to. Kate seemed satisfied with this answer. She turned back to the window, watching the stars with wonder in her eyes. A message appeared on Sophie's datapad. She read it quickly and smiled. "Captain, you will want to see this. It is from the Vraxi delegation." Jake read the message. The Vraxi were requesting human assistance in setting up a new colony defense network. They wanted to learn from humanity's example. They wanted to create a system where every Vraxi ship, civilian or military, could respond to threats against their colonies. "They are learning," Sophie said softly. "Yes," Jake agreed. "They are learning that the best defense is not just a strong military. It is a committed population, people who will do whatever it takes to protect their homes." Over the following months, more species approached humanity with similar requests. The Kellon wanted help training their civilian pilots. The Dramathi requested human instructors for their academies. Even some smaller species that had previously been conquered by larger empires began reaching out. The galaxy was slowly transforming. The old way of thinking, where professional armies fought while civilians watched, was fading. A new way was emerging. One where every citizen understood that they might be called upon to defend their homes. Where every ship was potentially a weapon of last resort. Where threatening civilians was no longer a viable strategy, because those civilians might fight back. Admiral Price visited the council station 6 months later. She sat with Jake in his office, reviewing the changes across the galaxy. "You know what is interesting, Captain?" she said. "We have not had a single major conflict in this sector since the stand. Border disputes are being settled through negotiation. Pirates are finding fewer targets because merchant crews are better armed and trained. Even the most aggressive empires are thinking twice before making threats." "Because they are afraid of us," Jake said. "No, because they respect what we proved. That ordinary people, when properly motivated, are more dangerous than any professional army." Price leaned back in her chair. "We did not create fear, Captain. We created respect, and respect creates peace more effectively than fear ever could." Jake thought about the 12,000 ships that had gathered, about Captain Claire Rodriguez and her grandchildren, about Dan Foster and his family, about all the ordinary humans who had been ready to sacrifice everything. "They were never soldiers," he said quietly. "They were just people who loved their families more than they feared death. And that," Price replied, "is what makes humanity special. Not our weapons, not our ships, not our tactics, but our willingness to protect those we love no matter the cost." As the years continued to pass, the stand became a turning point in galactic history. Schools across hundreds of worlds taught about the day when humanity mobilized its entire civilian population to defend 12 million colonists. They taught about the desperate gambit that almost led to mutual destruction, and they taught about the lesson the galaxy learned: that humanity was not to be threatened, that human families were protected by an entire species willing to sacrifice everything, that beneath the peaceful surface of human society lay an unbreakable commitment to protection. The 12,000 ships had scattered back to their normal lives, but everyone knew they could gather again if needed. And that knowledge, that certainty, was enough to deter any potential aggressor. Jake Morrison remained at the Galactic Council for another 10 years. He became known as the man who taught the galaxy about human determination, about human love, about human sacrifice. He never fired a weapon in anger. He never commanded a fleet in battle. But he changed the galaxy forever simply by refusing to back down when his daughter's life was threatened. When he finally retired from the council, he returned to Proxima Station to be with his family. Kate was 17 now, preparing to enter the academy herself. She wanted to be a pilot, to explore the galaxy that her father had helped make safer. On his last day at the council, representatives from dozens of species came to say goodbye. Elder Corvin, now even more ancient, spoke for all of them. "Captain Morrison, you came to this council as a representative of a new species. You leave as a teacher who changed how we all think about protection, about family, about sacrifice. The galaxy is better because humanity joined us, and humanity is special because of people like you." Jake shook his head. "I was not special, Elder. I was just a father who wanted to protect his daughter." Exactly, Korvan replied. That is what makes you special. You are just a father, and yet you were willing to lead thousands to their deaths if necessary.